am Orlando Jones, and I just want you to know that the Moana Nui podcast will be starting soon. Stay tuned, yo.
I'm Veronica Taylor, and from myself and Ash Ketchum, I just want to say, Moana Nui, I choose you!
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Moana Nui After Dark presents Loki Season 2 review. Before I bring in our panelists, I just want to say happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Feliz Navidad, happy Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate, please enjoy. Happy New Year. Again, the QR code in the lower corner down there for those still affected by the wildfires in Maui. Please scan the code to donate at whatever you can do. I'm going to go ahead and bring our panel in as this is the final show of 2023 before we undergo a little bit of change into the new year. So with that, I will bring in our regular panelists. Ladies, how are you doing?
Doing good. How's everybody?
And our guest panelist for this evening, Tom Cunningham. How are you, sir?
I am well, thank you.
All right. So Loki Season 2 follows the continuing adventures of the alternate version of our favorite demigod gone rogue. To start off here, let's just start in a very broad sense, your overall sense and thoughts on the entire show as a whole for just Season 2. Simone.
It was okay.
I guess I should have prefaced the show with Simone wants to fight tonight. So,
Oh, my multiversal life.
right?
I've had to fight. The demigod ain't safe in a house full of men.
I don't have enough alcohol for the show tonight. Joy, your thoughts on Season 2 of Loki overall.
So I'll go.
I did say Joy.
Start us off. I thought Season 2 was a good closeout. I'm trying to debate if I thought Season 2 was better than Season 1. I think the surprise of it all and the entrance of the artist formerly known as Kang in the first season was like, wow. And then this one was very much the evolution of Loki in a way that I'd never really thought to see him evolve. And I liked the journey. I thought it was fun. I liked the way people that you thought were good weren't necessarily good. People that you thought were bad weren't necessarily bad yet. You see a lot of people at a lot of points in their life. I thought it was a good show. And I still put it in like the top 5 Disney Plus shows for sure.
Okay, Teresa.
Yes.
Just your thoughts on the show. Nothing specific. Just what did you think?
Well, I wasn't the biggest fan of Season 1.
Okay.
So Season 2 was par for the course. How about that?
Okay, Tom.
I really enjoyed Season 2. I thought the consolidation and reduction in the scope of characters helped it a lot. I loved the introduction of Obi, and I was absolutely thrilled at the end reveal. I mean, it's not spoilers because it's been done for weeks, but I loved the end reveal of Loki manifesting the time loom as a proxy for Yggdrasil. I thought that was a great Easter egg.
Very, very much so. Definitely one of my probably 3 jaw-dropping moments of the show was the ending, how the timeline manifested as Yggdrasil. Obi definitely probably my favorite part of the entire Season 2. seeing him getting back into the acting role, considering we hadn't seen him since. I guess the most recent thing for most people they've seen it was Anything, Anywhere, Everything at Once. I know I messed up that title.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot.
I butchered the hell out of that title.
Everywhere, all at once.
All at once. Thank you.
Referred to.
And before that,
Jackson, anytime, any place, like what?
right. And before that, you know, we probably hadn't seen him since he was a kid in Indiana Jones and the Goonies. So good, very, very wonderful to see him, you know, resume acting. Definitely a nice. It added more depth to what's actually going on inside the TVA for me, as opposed to just peacekeepers going out there and just pruning timelines. He added a bit of nuance into the complexity. There's not just one thing they're looking out for. There's actually someone who's doing maintenance, if you will. So Tom, you touched, and we're going to jump all over the place. Let's jump to the end because you touched on it first. Loki basically coming to his own, because we said this was like his journey in the season, coming to his own, understanding this new power that he has now is based as far as jumping back and forth through time. He finally gets a grip on it, steps out to the loom that's basically collapsed to all hell, and uses all of his power to hold it together and, like you said, manifest as Yggdrasil. In, I guess, probably the first question for how this affects outside the show, what do we expect going forward from this point? Do we see any grandiose changes as far as how this affects? Because to be honest, these two seasons kind of feel like their own separate universe apart from the greater MCU. So do we see a possibility of something going forward beyond this? Do we actually believe this is the end all be all for Loki, for this Loki variant story?
I mean, I've already seen that they're talking about Loki season 3. So to answer that first question, I doubt that it's the end. Not for the least of which reasons is that I think this is the reshoot ending.
Very much so.
I don't think that they intended to trim Kang like that.
No.
And so they ended up with something that I thought was particularly satisfying for the Loki character, because what we saw at the first season was Loki still in his villain mode. He was placed in the limbo pretty much while he was still a villain, before he had any sort of redemptive action in the mainstream. And all he wanted when we first saw him in the MCU period was to rule. And by the time we get to the end of Loki season 2, he has accepted that responsibility, but accepted that responsibility as a benign caretaker as opposed to a petty tyrant. And that's the transformation of his entire experience in the MCU, but especially in season 1 and season 2. We spent half of season 1 with him still trying to be a manipulative shit. And then by the time he realized that there was actually a job to do, he had the whole kind of half redemption arc that brought us to the end of season 1. And then season 2, he was just full on, let's fix it. And ultimately had to take on the very somber responsibility of holding shit together, which was not something he could have done as petty Loki. He would have wanted to meddle too much. He would have wanted to kind of, mess around with people. And now he's just sitting in a chair in the middle of the void, holding these threads together. And so I thought it was a good compromise for what Feige thinks the pathway forward is with the multiverse, because we already know that RDJ is probably going to come back and that Chris Evans is going to come back as variants of their original starring characters. There's Johansson is supposed to come back as a variant. And that has to still happen because Secret Wars is basically the culmination of all of this. But I think it leaves the door open for what they want to do. And I just hope that they can reset things and not actually give us Eternals 2, which nobody ever wants. And, get us into stuff that people might be interested in seeing before the entire superhero genre collapses on itself. I'm looking at you, Aquaman.
Aquaman wasn't that bad.
Okay.
Ooh,
I know you're not coming after my Jason Momoa. Oh no,
gosh.
you're not.
Your Jason Momoa has said that he ain't interested in playing it if people don't like this movie, and the opening is significantly lower than they were hoping. It's lower than what they projected.
Okay, Marvel.
And I will
stay on
say, just to stay on Aquaman for a second, if
No.
y'all haven't seen it, they do some real. At the end of the movie, I was like, y'all stole this from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, I was so mad at how they ended it because they didn't have to do all of that
stuff from the MCU.
Yeah, but this was a blatant ripoff, like almost line for line. But
Loki season.
I want to add. So back to Loki. Another thing I was thinking about as far as this particular variant, is he still a variant because he is now outside of time, so to speak, because he's holding all the timelines together. He is a god. I mean, he was a god, but now he's like a god. And he could hypothetically pop in anywhere he wants to, kind of like the Watcher in the What If series. You can do whatever you want because you're holding all the timelines. And it gives rise to possibilities where, to your point earlier about the reshoot, we no longer need Kang as a big bad. They could go anywhere with that. And all they got to do is tap Loki to open up or show into another multiverse and say this problem is happening over here and it causes whatever. They can reset the whole thing without it. It's not even as much of a stretch as Vibranium, as far as what the timelines can do. I think I liked Loki's arc. I liked the idea, to your point of what you were saying, Tom, about him being a little tyrannical shit. There's some quote that I'm going to get absolutely wrong, but about people who are seeking power should never have it, or the people that make the best leaders are the ones that don't want power. He got to that point where he didn't care about the throne. He's like, the last thing I want right now is the throne. I want to help. I want to do something. I want to be basically a servant leader, but not even a leader. I just want to get stuff done. And then he realized he had to make sacrifices of his own in order to save everyone instead of rule everyone. And then he became the god he always wanted to be. He got the throne he always wanted. Maybe not as many people coming to visit as he would like, but he became worthy of that power, Yeah,
visitation to Loki is going to be a little problematic going forward.
Yeah, since she turned to spaghetti.
Just a little bit. People are getting irradiated 2 seconds.
Or to come see him, maybe.
He's Loki who remains.
I see what you did there.
Loki who remains.
Yeah.
With you saying
Simone, your
all
thoughts.
that, you and I agree with that. That with him sitting on the throne, well, actually, you, Joy, with him sitting on the throne and being that variant, well, no longer a variant, that he can actually, and I believe that's how they're going to make it, him popping in. They might be thinking the same way you're thinking. Hey, I have an issue here in this realm, and goes to his friends and say, I need you to go here because I'm seeing a problem happening over here. He got a heart. And at the end, season 1 was my favorite. The end of season 1, he became friends. He knew what friendship was. And he saw that in season 2, which is why he wanted to save everybody, because he was like, I don't want to lose my friends.
He developed attachments to people.
His heart grew 3 sizes that day. If you will.
Yes.
Speaking
Teresa.
of saving people, the pragmatic person in me wants to point out he wouldn't have had to do all this if he had just killed that damn Sophie. I was so sick of her. I wanted her to die. I thought they were setting it up that way because every time he went back, you heard her say, "You're gonna have to kill me. You want to stop me? You're gonna have to kill me. You're gonna have to kill me." I was waiting for him to just shank, like, I killed you, save the universe, Kang is still alive. But it wouldn't have worked with what's going on in the future. So I get that. But also, I really wanted her to die. Like, I don't have no love for her at all.
Reshoots.
I don't like her character. She is the reason. This white woman is the reason for all the problems in the multiverse.
She is him. Remember that. She is him.
Whole multiverse.
I said what I said.
All the earth.
But look, I'm not disagreeing. But at the core of everything you hate about Sophie is everything you hate about Loki. That is Loki too. Yes, you can shake your head no all you want. Sophie is Loki on a very, very bad day. Basically she was plucked from her timeline as a child for something she had not yet done. and was thrust into who knows where, and probably kept locked up, isolated by herself for years. But, because of how time does or doesn't flow in the TVA, she basically developed a plan, got pissed off and said, I'm going to burn it all down. And she was hell-bent on that.
And now you have to wonder, if they had left her alone, would she have done all of that? Or was whatever they pruned her for, was that worse than destroying the multiverse? I don't know.
Listen, McDonald's Happy Meal therapy was not enough to heal her. Because all them people were holding their empty shake cups because the McDonald's shake machine was broken, and they turned into spaghetti while they were waiting for their frosty treat. And she was still like, nah, fuck it. We just need to, I'm gonna kill him again. And that is reshoots. I bet you, Joy, the decision that would have broken Loki would have been having to kill her. But with Jonathan Majors caught them cases, they said, what we can do.
Yeah, because I felt like they were building to that.
I think they were, because
definitely
he was willing to he was convinced by the argument that He Who Remains made, that this was the only way for things to work. He was convinced by that argument. But when they had to do reshoots, I think it's slipped a little more into what Simone was suggesting, which is his friends were more important, and he was willing to make the ultimate sacrifice for the preservation of his friends and all of the variants of his friends to take this control so that they could live their lives. And by eliminating the creation of the original Kang, eliminating Kang as a multiversal threat, which of course is not even necessarily true, because, it's comic books. And so Kang always got defeated in the comic books and always came back. So, it's far from over, but it's pretty clear that Disney is not messing with Majors anymore. So, and they have said that they don't want to cast him. So it just seems like, they've suggested Dr. Doom might be the guy that, and I think fans, frankly, are much more interested in the Dr. Doom than Kang. I always was. I was like, okay, Kang is just because of the multiverse, but so what? You're doing Secret Wars. You're going to have different dimensions and incursions and all that other shit anyway. So I didn't really see why Kang was the guy, other than the fact that Jonathan Majors is a talented actor, regardless of his current troubles. And I thought he could have been a compelling villain, but Dr. Doom is better. And by the time we get to Secret Wars, we'll have a Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom's Secret Wars arc is epic.
Yeah, because he's the main.
He's the main guy when he steals the Beyonder's power. I mean, come on.
We can really do without Kang in the Secret Wars.
Oh, for sure.
We really don't.
Kang didn't factor.
I will say their thought process, and this is just my 2 cents, as far as going with Kang initially, is the success they've had with lesser known characters to the general public.
I was thinking like Kang is the Guardians of the Galaxy of villains.
Right.
Like, who now? And then you start to like him. I knew of him as some weird purple dude from a couple of cartoons. I didn't really know him at all.
Right. So I'll say this, like, remember back to the end of the Avengers when we finally see Thanos' face, to the general populace, all these heroes, you're familiar with Loki via Thor in some regard whatsoever, but now to the general public, it's all right, who's this dude sitting in the chair and why is everybody so geeked about him? And if you hadn't read a comic book or seen any other type of, media of Marvel superheroes, Thanos goes over your head as far as how big a threat he is, even all the way back 10 plus years ago. And I feel like they were trying to do the same thing with Kang. Take, again, a lesser known villain who did pop up every now and then and wreak, chaos levels amount of havoc, and try to put him in the forefront more so than the big names that they still have coming down the pipe.
But what's the iconic Kang story?
Exactly.
That took you too long. Here's why Thanos works.
Ties it to the younger Avengers. I'll say that much.
Because as soon as Thanos came on screen, everybody, if you you didn't even have to read the Infinity Saga
True.
to know that
That
the
was coming.
Infinity Gauntlet
Mhm.
was a thing. And you could easily Google it. And everybody who did know what Thanos was knew that if Thanos was in it, it was going to be the Infinity Gauntlet, because that's his thing. I mean, that's
the main
super
thing.
arc. That's
Yeah,
what
that's
everybody
the
knows
main
him
thing,
for.
yes.
And so, you know, Thanos has been beaten by Spider-Man and Squirrel Girl. So nobody thought it was going to be that. It had to be Infinity Gauntlet. And Infinity Gauntlet was like, oh,
I
there's
hate
the
that you brought up
overarching
that
story.
duel.
Now I know what they're working toward.
I hate that you brought up that duel. I hate that.
I mean,
I hate both of them.
and so the difference is with Kang, to me, Kang was an Avengers villain, and Kang was Time, and Kang was Ramatut, and Kang was Crimson
Right.
Colossus, whatever the hell his name was, and all that other sort of stuff. And that was fine. But Kang was like, not even like Ultron, but Kang just always had like a big army and special weapons and was from the future.
Right.
That's not as compelling as Thanos, who is basically Marvel's Darkseid. And Darkseid is, you know,
Right.
he's a bad, hush your mouth. I'm just talking about Darkseid. So I really grokked while they went with Thanos. When they lost Thanos, that's why we've had so much trouble with phases 4 and 5.
No,
because
villain.
you say, okay, Kang, but you didn't introduce Kang until Quantumania. Really?
Yeah.
And so you had all of these filler movies. You had Black Widow, which was a retrospective. You had Shang-Chi, which didn't really tie into anything except that we saw the Abomination again. You had the Eternals, which was an entire waste of time. You had
I like the Eternals.
Oh,
I liked it too, but as far as needing it, I didn't
did.
I thought, first of all, Simone, I thought you was fixing to fight, and you sat there and you disappeared, Monica Rambeau, and flew off into another dimension and thought nothing. And here you coming back talking about the worst Marvel movie you actually liked. That movie didn't make any sense.
I didn't have to think. I just sat there and enjoyed it. That's what I want. I want to sit there and then don't roll your eyes at me. I want to sit there and enjoy a movie without thinking. Loki made me have a headache. The first few episodes, because I felt I really needed to have a freaking science degree.
Okay, well, granted, I am a chemical engineer. James is a mathematician.
And I'm an engineer.
Don't take it all back there. You should have been fine.
No, I wasn't. I was sitting there like, what the fuck? I'm confused.
I think you're making a good point about
I can't understand what the hell was going on. I'm like, it was just too much. And then once
I think you make a good point though about what you go to a movie for, or what you're looking for in entertainment. You're like, I don't want to think. I just want to like enjoy the explosions and some funny one-liners and have a good time, and that's all I want. And that's valid, because there's a whole genre of movies that I like that I don't want to think about nothing. I just like to watch what's on screen and go about my merry way. But I like, at least from the intricacy of the Marvel universe, I like trying to figure out, ooh, and then him, and but they was over there, but didn't I see that in the background, like all the Easter eggs that come out with Marvel movies? I was like,
I love trying to figure out the Easter eggs, but I couldn't try and look at the Easter eggs because I was too busy trying to figure out the damn plot. It was too much.
Okay, I just have a question for you, Simone.
It was too much.
Since you just like to watch things and you don't care about, brand, how is an entire continent-sized immersion from the Indian Ocean not addressed in any of the films in Phase 5? Because now supposedly Tiamat, or whatever the hell he is supposed to be where they find adamantium or whatever. But his fingers are the size of the World Trade Center times 10. He's a whole continent. He was emerging from the earth, and his birth was going to crack the earth in half. Yet nobody has said, with all the satellites and the 24-hour news cycle, nobody has made reference to the fact
She-Hulk.
It's some
This
fingers
big
in the
ass
ocean.
new continent is in the middle,
It was,
offshore.
it was referencing She-Hulk.
I mean, what? Okay.
But
Basically,
You
just to rag on the
expecting black
Eternals a little
people
bit.
to see that where it's hard for them to leave their own city, let alone their state, to go and travel?
Who?
Blacks in general.
What?
I'm just talking about traveling in general, and you trying to figure out how come nobody is saying anything. These people can't even figure out their own damn city. So no, they're
It's
not
a
supposed to be something in the
whole
middle of a damn
Saber
ocean.
space station, a sword space station that is going around the planet like
And
several times a day.
They ain't nobody trying to care.
What I didn't like about
Nobody cares.
Eternals,
They
Oh,
still
God.
don't even know about Easter Island. You ask somebody where the hell Easter Island is, they don't know.
but they know it exists.
But you could Google it.
I know it's
Them
out
big
there.
heads are 1,000,000 times smaller than Tiamat's pinky toe.
oh
And
Lord.
you have to, everybody knows what them damn heads is.
I mean, his forehead kind of sticking out the ocean too.
Yeah. I'm surprised that like Disney hasn't turned it into a theme park yet.
Oh yeah, infinity cones.
Oh God, you people.
You talk about something that nobody on the planet knew about, but now it's an ice cream parlor in
Right.
Thor: Love and
In
Thunder.
Asgard land.
Nobody knew about
They
the
did.
Infinity Gauntlet,
They did reference that in Love and
Mhm.
Thunder. I forgot about that.
which
But
was
just
trash.
to continue to rag on the Eternals for just a second. What I
Oh.
thought the movie was passable, like it was cute. But what I never like about a movie is when I figure it out 10 minutes in. Immediately I knew who the villain was. I knew what the shit was going on. I didn't know they were like robots or whatever. That was like oh, okay. But it wasn't like oh my God. It was like, oh, a robot, whatever. But
What was the job of
figured
those
it out.
robots, by the way?
so
to
what?
monitor human civilization to the point to where enough souls or people were populating the planet to be fodder for the new
Tiamat.
Exactly. That's a good point. So why wouldn't they fight Thanos, who was committed to destroying half the life in the entire universe?
Because it's only half. It wasn't all, it was half.
No. They were helping prevent wars because wars would have killed people on the planet, and Tiamat needed the life energy of people on the planet. If nothing in the history of Earth destroyed half the population of Earth, nothing, not the Spanish flu, nothing, no wars, nothing. And these robots
Athena,
who were
Because they can't
immune from the
intervene.
snap
They're not
didn't
supposed to
attempt
intervene.
to stop anything because
Right.
supposedly the Celestials wanted them not to be involved, even though they're doing fireworks shows and all that other shit. Stop it. It made no sense.
You're
And
absolutely
also,
right.
they
It made
supposed
no
to be
sense.
Thanos' cousins.
It was just a nice movie.
Hey,
I
look,
didn't
no,
even
it wasn't
link
nice.
it
It
to
was
Hey,
trash.
MCU.
look.
I didn't think it was
They
just a
figured the
movie.
humans had it
I
covered.
enjoyed it.
And look,
Y'all go
the
to y'all
humans had it
corner.
covered.
Go to your corners and talk to you. Listen to your corner and watch for the hook.
Hey, look, at the
No, I
end,
liked it. It wasn't
the
had
end of the
nothing
day,
to do with
we-
MCU. It was separate. It was
Okay, Mortal
whatever.
Kombat. I see you
Let's
down
just
there.
make a movie, and they just did it. That's how I'm taking it. Fight me. I don't care.
oh my God. All right, chill. At the end of the day, we got Infinity War and Iron Man snapped his fingers and everything's good again. Copacetic.
Yeah.
All the people came back. Took 5
Yeah.
years, but they back.
Yes, for them to destroy the planet again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what they were there for.
That's what humans do.
Right.
No, that's what industrial capitalists do,
They're humans.
which is my euphemism for white people.
Oh my gosh.
But-
So
I see.
Translucent humans.
Right. Pilgrims,
Yeah.
translucents.
But the
oh gosh.
So
Okay.
Rosa-
I was saying about Loki, how you had bad people. Well, was that you, Joy? The people that was good was really bad, and vice versa. So
Mhm.
Good and bad was relative based on who was trying to do what.
right, because their variant was actually bad compared to their good variants.
Or the
Was.
original.
I can't remember his name, but he was he the Asian guy?
Obi?
No, not
No,
Obi.
she's talking about the Filipino dude.
Okay.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Him,
The one who was
he was
very
like a
was on
robber.
Alcatraz.
yes.
But the sister,
And I
Was it
expected him to steal.
Yeah, but they just took the doctor. She wasn't bad. Mobius wasn't bad.
Well, because they still had some semblance of whatever their original lives were still embedded in them. That's why Mobius always kept looking at jet skis, and come to find out he had a variant who sold jet skis. Like that's where he was on the timeline.
So speaking of timeline, here's my problem with all time travel. If Kang invented the TVA, and ultimately Loki has made it so that Kang never fully materializes, how is the TVA even there for him to sit in the middle of the loom?
Quantum paradox. I don't mess with those. They give me a headache.
Because once he took control of the loom and wrested control away from the person he eliminated as the administrator of the loom, he could do whatever he wanted. And what he wanted to do was keep his friends in place without destroying their whole lives, and also wanted to maintain the people that he might need to use to do what, because he's got to sit on the throne. He can't be dancing around. So he thought the TVA was important, but this TVA is different because at least the core 5 have made the choice to be there. They have chosen to remain, as opposed to being dupes who didn't know what their previous existence was. They know what their previous existence was, but they have chosen to remain in their roles, perhaps out of loyalty to Loki, but also to do their jobs because they recognize that their jobs are important.
Okay, so they both Obi wrote the book.
Right.
Or did they?
They both wrote the book.
They both wrote the book. Obi, the book was sent back to cue Victor Timely, young Victor Timely, into maturing and fully developing the concepts that ultimately became the book. So it was like when Biff got the almanac, the sports almanac in Back to the Future 2, he used that to win so that he could become the owner. And in Loki, it's kind of a paradoxical thing, because it was originally Victor Timely's ideas and concepts
that Obi had written down,
that Obi had followed. But when he got the fully finished thing, he was like, "Oh, filling in the blanks. This is what it needs." And so that's what that cycle was. But my question is, because I wasn't completely sure about this, and maybe I'm not remembering it. Are there some people at the TVA who were like kind of born in the TVA and weren't variants? Like, oh no, Obi was a guy who wrote books that didn't sell and he got plucked. Yeah, that's right.
No, they were all variants.
Everyone in the TVA is a variant. That was one of the revelations towards the end of season 1, that everyone is a variant.
Yeah, they just plug people from their lives to put them to work, which is slavery.
Thank you, Joy.
Slavery, by the way, which was not the cause of the Civil War, according to leading presidential candidate.
No, that's a whole nother show.
Right. Sorry.
It's a variant. It was a variant.
Oh gosh, if only he were a variant. Oh,
that we could prune.
So the episode, because this was a little fun departure for me anyway, the episode where we got to see all of their variants, or at least them in their variant lives. We got to see as the Mobius as the jet ski, the One Me as the doctor, whatever. We still didn't see what Ravonna's role was on the timeline.
I thought she was a teacher from season 1.
They never showed it.
In season 1, they didn't?
No, they alluded to it. And Miss Timely or Miss Minutes shows her, but they never show us, the audience. And for the entirety of season 2, she's with Miss Minutes behind the scenes trying to manipulate Victor Timely into becoming Kang, or at least trying to, push him in that direction.
Can we talk about Miss Minutes?
Oh,
thank you.
A second.
I mean, go ahead, go.
Yo,
or Alex Forrester.
How are you a multidimensional AI and you ain't see this coming? How you didn't know what was happening? Or was she so caught up in her lust for Kang that she was just like, I just want the timeline that gets me into this mannequin body so I can get me some, Kang cock.
Kangalang.
Yeah, some Kangalang.
Some
And
Kang,
then
Kang,
get
Kang,
feelings
Kang.
and get
Yep.
upset and then disappear. This is why I said it was just okay, whatever.
Well, because Kang made her, so she feels she owes him.
No, she fell in love with him. It wasn't
Oh
It
no,
was
she wanted to repay
fatal
him in the only way she knew
attraction.
how.
You
that is
told
not
him
the only way she
kill
knew how.
me.
She wanted to get a piece of that.
Ooh, that Kang so scandalous. No another minute can handle it.
All I know is hell hath no fury.
Like an AI scorn.
Exactly.
Right? That's probably true.
But remember, it is weird because he created Miss Minutes, but allowed her AI to grow into that basically unchecked, with like very few, if any, parameters on what to do and not to do.
Yeah, he wasn't able to control her.
Mm-hmm.
No, it wasn't about control. He did that on purpose.
He let her go. Like,
yeah. But I do find it funny how every time someone talked about working with him, whether it was the Kang we knew from season 1 to Victor Timely that we saw in season 2, every time it was like, yeah, we can do this together. He was like,
yeah,
I'm a team of one, and I am the one.
The
Like,
way he
it was
left
an
her on that
INT.
little dinghy, though, that was dirty.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I guess that's why they did him that way. He just seemed wimpy to me. It wasn't like the first one where this big bad and you felt the threat. This one in season 2 was.
He felt
Well,
more
he
like
hadn't
a
gotten to that
shyster.
point yet. Yeah.
I mean, but he was.
He
He
was
wasn't
gr-
like a big, intimidating specimen. He was a con man
right.
with some brains.
Well,
Very much so.
we saw the threat of Kang in Quantum Mania.
Right.
Mm.
What we saw in Loki season 1 was resigned bureaucratic administrator Kang.
No, in Quantum Man shit, that's what we saw.
Well, but up until that point,
Yes.
he was a G.
Very much.
He was running things once he got his little doodad back and had his little powers and stuff, and you know, he was doing damage. But in Loki season 2, we got Proto Kang,
Mhm.
and my question is, do any of you think that the Victor Timely variant that we saw through most of the run of season 2 is the same physical being that ended up becoming He Who Remains?
I think he might be.
One of.
I think
Well,
it's.
but
I think
that's the core question for me is, which Kang
Does he become
became He Who Remains?
something?
Because Victor Timely kind of seemed kind of petty
Mhm.
in the way that Loki used to be. And so I don't know if there was just one of the Kangs who just decided he was going to be rational or whatever, because there were most of the Kangs we saw were just like angry and yelling and screaming. And
Yes, and what happened to them?
well, we're led to believe that since Victor Timely never advanced his logic by getting the book, that there was no evolution into Kang at all. That's what
On
we're
this
I think
set,
we're
though, like,
supposed to
we
believe.
don't.
On that timeline. But
On
remember,
this timeline, there's no Kang. But that's why I think that the Kang that they disintegrated was also the one that was he who remains, he who must remain, or whatever. Because when Loki takes over all of the timelines as the monitor, effectively, because he's in charge of all of that, he seals them. Hypothetically, he could seal them off from one another, so you never get the Kang Wars. But those other Kangs are still hypothetically doing whatever they were going to do, because we haven't messed with their timelines at all. All those other variants have other lives that are going on. Kang is still alive everywhere else except in this universe, and it does kind of bookend it well if the one that ends up dying is the one that we now have killed earlier on. And all this in this timeline never happens. But then that begs the question, is there a loom in every universe? Because they make it seem like this is the only loom through which all the other
exists outside of the multiverse.
It exists outside
Just
space and
the
time.
Chronopolis exists outside the universe.
It's
So
holding
okay, so then the
them.
Kangs
it's like
can't get
Scarlet
each other
Witch
to
is a
fight
nexus
if,
being. She's the only Scarlet Witch everywhere. She
'cause she
exists
killed them all.
in all places. But I think to your point, you kind of answered my thought because He Who Remains doesn't exist anymore, and Victor Timely was ultimately spaghettied before but Loki also had the conversation with He Who Remains because he teleported a time slip to the Chronopolis to say, "Oh, you're back." So I presume you've done the 10,000 years of suffering, and so you see how tough it is now, right? So Victor had been spaghettied and spaghettied and spaghettied and spaghettied, so Victor couldn't have become He Who Remains. So that kind of answered that question for me.
Cool.
But that's what Renslayer was doing. Pushing.
Yeah, that's what. Yes.
Didn't she get left at the end of time by herself?
Yeah, she was kicked out of time with
Miss Minutes, right?
No, Miss Minutes was
Minutes.
reprogrammed
with
she
the
was
beat
on where Kang
was.
Yeah, she was in Chronopolis. Oh, that's right. Yeah, she was in the void or the limbo.
The void at the end of time with the little demon beast that eats all the prune timelines. Yes, that's when they dropped Renslayer.
And so Doom is gonna come get her from there. Is she gonna be one of his henchmen?
She might turn out to be one of the bad people that Loki somehow she escapes and she's hopping through these timelines and the TVA is gonna have to try and find her. That might be season 3.
Unless it's a recast of Kang, I don't see Ravonna Renslayer serving a purpose going forward.
Or just like we had Sylvie, maybe she's female Kang.
Fair.
Yeah, they could do
Kangisha?
Quenisha? Yeah, we that.
Shikanga.
I see her being evil. I see them pulling her in.
Yeah, she mad.
Of course, you said hell have no fury like an AI scorn, but there's a woman who is going to have nothing but time on her hands.
A sister.
She mad. She mad.
And she's going to want to get Miss Minutes too, because Miss Minutes left her. She was her FF, and she left her.
Well, Miss Minutes was the one who
she was
screwed
trying
her
to
over.
Miss Minutes man, so you know.
She was trying to kill that man.
It was not enough man for the both of them.
I mean, technically, there were infinite variants of that same too.
I don't know what it was about this one variant. They both wanted him, so
he was slaying Kang.
So, we did touch on the Jonathan Majors, and yes, the end of. I would definitely say the final 2 episodes did feel like a bunch of reshots were done to pretty much prep just in case, and it was a good thing they did the reshoots because that just in case came to be. So do we think that Kang would just be a lesser villain going forward with a recast, or we think that this is actually done with Kang?
I think Kang is done because it becomes too confusing. I mean, it's already confusing as hell anyway, but you leave him floating around and the question becomes, well, does he wrest power again? Just leave it. Just leave him. Leave him as a loose end. We never know what happens to the Kang that's in the miniverse down there in the quantum realm or whatever. And the rest of them are just in their universes being mediocre. And there's a new big bad to come forward. I agree with Tom. I think Dr. Doom is a better choice. And also, Dr. Doom has been the villain for a lot of different branches of Marvel characters.
Yep.
And so since we've already seen that there's a possibility that the X-Men are coming back, that Deadpool's in here.
Well, they have to.
Fantastic Four is on their way. So he could tie a lot of that together too.
They have to, because they are one of the biggest in the Secret Wars.
Yeah.
You have Professor X.
All I know is Kelsey Grammer needs to live for another 10, 15 years. Over that AI his voice, because I don't want nobody else to play Beast.
Yeah,
is he that old?
Yes,
he's old.
I hope they don't
up there. He's close
change
to
that timeline.
Okay.
For Secret Wars, the way that they did in Infinity, and because basically everybody was supposed to have died, and it was the X-Men that brought them back.
Right.
So they did away with that storyline, but I really want Secret Wars to stick to their
Well,
storyline.
what about the Young Avengers? Like, who's going to be there? Because I see them bringing in younger people. There's even the possibility they could age up T'Challa Jr. and put him in there too. So who do y'all see them developing that at all, or is it just kind of rumors and hints?
No, I mean they're doing it. They did it at the end.
At the end of the Marvels was a start.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
But and
So
we've also had the
clearly building
introduction.
it, and you have 3 already who have been seen on screen on the big screen. Well, not the big screen, you guys haven't seen Kate Bishop on the big screen, but you've seen 3 of the Young Avengers using powers in the MCU. And then if you count Speed and Wiccan, that's 5, although technically they're not real yet. And then
but they were the first 2.
You could make Scar Hulkling, even though it was supposed to be a Skrull, and you still have what's-her-face is Super Skrull with all the powers of the whole MCU, which is another thing that we haven't dealt with, as far as she's now the most powerful Skrull, physical non-god being in the MCU, because she's got all of the powers of everybody.
She'd make a great villain.
She would, but you've got a lot of loose threads. You've even seen the person who's supposed to be Patriot, but the kid who is supposed to become Iron Lad is a Kang variant. So do you keep Kang, a young Kang, so it's not Jonathan Majors? Or do you really just say, look, Loki gave us our out, so that's the out. Let's just keep it pushing and do another roll of the dice? Because you can't tell me that when they first introduced Loki's scepter in Avengers that Kevin Feige knew that was going to be the Mind Stone, because that would have been
he admits that was not the plan.
Exactly. So you would have had 3 stones on Earth at the same time, and Thanos himself isn't coming down to wreck shop. It didn't make any sense.
Right there, just
and they addressed that in the beginning of Endgame, when they're planning the time heist, if you will. They're sitting around,
it was like they had
spitballing, like, wait, if you pick the right year, there are 3 stones
in
New York. So so it's one of those hindsight things. Is like, if we had known then what we know now, we could have done this better, but it is what it is. And retconning is a thing. They can easily shoehorn something into the past. Captain Marvel, for instance, was basically a retcon of part of the MCU.
Right.
As far as when that movie takes place, basically 10 years or so before Iron Man.
Right.
So it's all possibilities. The kid's supposed to be Patriot. Unfortunately, that actor gotten some fluff, so he will be recast.
Don't nobody remember him? No way, though.
Exactly. And Riri Williams is still out there.
True.
Oh, there you go. So maybe instead of Iron Lad, they'd have Iron Heart.
That would be better.
So you have an entire roster of Young Avengers out there that Kamala Khan is going out to recruit. So just a matter of time before they decide to put this together, because I feel like the Young Avengers would probably ultimately be the foil for Kang if Kang was still a big bad going forward, because of Iron Lad, and he is basically Kang before he becomes Kang. Say 20 years earlier or so, basically the same person. He comes back to stop him, to help them stop himself from getting to that point. So just one of those things that they like you said, Tom, there's a lot of threads out there wide open, and for all the complaints that things aren't closed off and tied up, we kind of don't want them to be, because there's so many more stories to tell.
And it gives you options for when these other actors go off the deep end, because they bound. It was just a matter of time.
Exactly.
Yeah, they can veer off to the left or to the right and still kind of keep the concept, but just add on to it. And the only people that'll be pissed off is the hardcore. You're not sticking to the story of the comic books. They'll live or survive.
We've gone way far away from most of that stuff in the MCU anyway. So I think if the heart of the conflict is maintained, and for MCU audiences, the heart of the conflict is, can we please have the X-Men and Fantastic Four?
Yeah.
That's all it is. So as long as you get everybody together, and Secret Wars is a great way to do it. They've already hinted that the universe that Monica Rambeau is in right now only has the X-Men as heroes.
Right. So that would definitely.
I really don't want to see the Fantastic Four. I've been so damaged mentally by the movies, every movie that has been made, that I just want them to stop. If I can just pull the Silver Surfer out and have him and none of them, I would be fine with that.
Oh, you don't
But
want
it's not going to
your
be the Silver Surfer.
No, I
you
don't.
don't want Beast?
It's going to be Frankie.
No.
Yeah, they've
No.
said that it's going to be Nova instead. And that makes no sense because Frankie is an Earthbound person. So I don't know if they're just going to make Frankie a Zen Woberus or whatever, and it's just going to be a woman instead of it being Noreen Rad. But it's going to be, supposedly, it's going to be that.
Okay, since we're pushing up on an hour, I got a question for y'all. Since this was a Disney Plus show, what are your top? I'm not even going to do top 5. What are your top 3 Disney Plus shows as of right now?
Oh, top 3.
Disney Plus?
Yes,
Yeah.
just Disney Plus.
Loki, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, most of the episodes of She-Hulk. I really liked Ms. Marvel and WandaVision.
I'm gonna go Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Hands down was my favorite so far.
That's mine. That's my number one.
I think Loki season 1 because I didn't know what to expect and I liked it. My third, it's a toss up between She-Hulk and Hawkeye.
Oh wow, I forgot about that one. Teresa.
I know.
Falcon and Winter Soldier, Ms. Marvel, Hawkeye.
Simone.
Falcon was mine. Wanda, and then it's a tie between the Miss Marvel and Hawkeye.
And I'm gonna go What If is my number 1 by far. Falcon and Winter Soldier is probably 2, and my 3 is Ms. Marvel.
I'm gonna change mine. I forgot about What If. I'm gonna have to knock off She-Hulk for What If. Yeah.
So I'm gonna say this. I enjoy a lot of the What If episodes.
Don't talk about season 2. I haven't started yet. I'm marathoning when it ends.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, season 2 is more of the problem for me. But
God. Why?
It feels like some of the shows are not substantial.
Okay.
Like, what if T'Challa became Star-Lord? It's like, it was great to hear Chadwick Boseman. No, it was great to hear Chadwick Boseman.
Right.
And it was cute the way they did things. But like,
yeah,
you know, what if Thor went on a party boat and you know, it's like, I was hoping we might see more of some of the classic what ifs that came, like the Sinister Strange episode was cool.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
And the Ultron episode was cool.
Right.
I like the way they pulled it all together at the end too.
Right.
And that was why they did those that way. Like, you got party boat Thor because you got different versions of the characters we saw through the MCU films. We just put them in different situations and bring them together because now they're going to be the ones to stop the big threat as opposed to.
Yeah, I get it. But Thor in all of the what ifs has never not seemed to be Chris Hemsworth Thor, like from the MCU.
And this was very much like Jeff Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Wow.
Thor. And so the Sinister Strange was different.
Yes.
He was different. But most of them weren't significantly different. Like even the Tony Stark.
I know the Tony Stark episode is coming. I know.
No, it's here and gone. But You
He
know,
lands on Battle World or whatever.
So
on
disclaimer, Turo will spoil the hell out of something for you.
what if Iron Man bumped into the Grandmaster, basically?
Oh.
And it's great to hear the voices, and Jeff Goldblum is still as bloomy as ever.
Right. Because what else?
But it's just, that's what I don't like. I love Jeffrey Wright. I'm glad Jeffrey Wright is in the MCU. That's amazing. Can't wait for American Fiction. But
Yes.
as much as I enjoy the animation, it just doesn't feel as substantial to me. I like the Captain Carter episode.
Yeah, the stories, when I was looking at them, I'm like, I had to force myself to watch them. And then after watching them, I enjoyed it. It's like, oh, okay. It was cute.
For me, going into the first What If season, my whole thing was leave all canon and all sense behind, because this is just fan fiction nonsense. Like, what if T'Challa was stolen? All of that. I was like, okay. And I didn't think it had any, I thought they were all standalone episodes until they started bringing in that Ultron episode towards the end, and you realize they're all coming back together, and the Watcher is out of his shell or whatever. I thought the way they pulled that together was good. And I thought it made it all a little bit more substantial, because there is they're all in the same timeline. Well, whatever kind of a cohesion to it. But I never expected
being watched
to
by
see,
this Watcher. Yeah.
Yeah, I never expected to see any of that on the big screen. So to get Zombie Strange in the Multiverse of Madness and to get Captain Carter, I was like, oh, I see what you did there. I thought it was cute. Not necessary, but cute.
It was a good bridge to the idea of the multiverse and what the potential of the multiverse was.
Yeah. Well,
and I do like the things I appreciated are the things that you appreciated, that we actually got Captain Carter live action because Captain Carter was introduced in What If, and we got Creepy Strange in live action because Creepy Strange had already been initiated in What If. And so that's great. I think that T'Challa is going to be aged during Secret Wars.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he could be kidnapped and aged, and it's going to be T'Challa from not 616, 6100, whatever this MCU version.
838, 957.
It's a really long number, but basically 616. It's going to be baby T'Challa from 616, who is taken out of time and aged and reinserted just in time to be a participant and bring the Wakanda franchise back online. Elon Noel, work on accents, bro. It should be you.
So back to Loki season 2. Any major problems? Like, why did they do this? This was a bad move. Yes.
We spent an hour talking about all that.
I know we didn't. Not this part. Not this question.
I mean, you're basically suggesting that this should just go to Simone, but but she hasn't even laced up her gloves yet, so I don't think that's really going to happen.
And at this point, I'm like, whatever.
Well, we already got Simone.
I was trying to be.
I mean, Simone,
I agree, but the way that Tom presented it, and I was like, okay, you know what? I kind of agree with that. Everything that he said was true, and I came in it with, okay, I didn't like this, I didn't like this, I didn't like this, but instead of doing that, it was I liked how this happened, I liked how this happened, and Obi was just the cherry on the top for me. He made me want to continue to watch it because I enjoyed him and his silliness, and it's, of course you have to do this. No. Yes.
I thought you were just upset that Jonathan Majors went to your hairdresser for the Victor Timely costume, and you were just like not feeling the competition after.
I'm not with him.
You don't like my wig, honey? This is from Kim Becker, who is no longer selling wigs. I'm really upset.
You just need to just put the part in it.
No, baby. This is it.
Yo, for real though, James, that's a good idea for a Dragon Con next year.
What?
Afro with a part in it and a suit with some suspenders.
I'm not doing that.
Maybe
nobody's
gonna do it. Doing it.
Somebody's gonna do it, Joy.
Oh, of course somebody's going to do it. Won't be me.
Somebody's gonna do it. I mean, hell, they went and they had the damn chair, and I love that.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, they did have the chair.
It was a white woman with a chair around her neck.
Yeah.
Yes.
I loved it.
Yeah, Joy shared that. And I thank you.
Oh gosh. So
I think she gave out earrings. She gave out
She's
stuff.
giving out earrings and ribbons and all
earrings
Yeah.
and ribbons and other things as well. Yeah, she was giving out quite a bit of stuff. All right, so let's put a bow on Loki and we can just spitball for the rest of the MCU out of this. So final thoughts on Loki. Teresa.
I don't need a season 3.
God damn.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, my sister.
Good
I'm
Lord.
good on that. I hope that we see Obi and Mobius and Loki again, but I don't need a season 3.
Okay. Simone.
Ditto.
Okay. Joy.
I gotta ride this train. I don't want a Loki season 3. I'd rather see Loki in other things, like pop in, like it's some shit going down, come with me,
Right.
Sort of thing, versus a whole season of this.
Tom.
I want Loki if.
Lord, it took me a second to figure. Yes. What if the Loki years? Yeah.
I could see Loki. I mean, because Loki and the Watcher are kind of the same.
Yeah, yeah.
Right now, yes.
So I would love
What if Loki and the Watcher?
I would love for Loki if there is a Loki season 3. I would love for Loki season 3 to bring me RDJ back. I would love for Loki season 3 to bring Chris Evans back, to maybe bring Quicksilver back, to, maybe tease some X-Men characters, to take a peek into Monica Rambeau's universe where she is right now. I could use that because it's going to be way too long. We're not going to see the X-Men as a full X-Men team for a long time. But if you could give me, the episodes are probably 47 minutes long. If you could give me 47 minutes in that universe, just to kind of peek and see what's going on, that would be the best possible use of a Loki season 3 to me. Because what the fans have not been getting is satisfying little chunklets of what is to come. And you only got 6 episodes in a Loki season. If one of the episodes was with the Fantastic Four, if another episode was with the X-Men, if another episode was,
Eternals.
No, not Blade, maybe, or
Blade,
or even Black Knight. I would take the Black Knight or Captain Britain and some of the people from Excalibur, anything like that. If you use Loki season 3 as one-offs for some story, like Wonder Man, why not introduce Wonder Man in Loki?
Which we still haven't.
That would be the way to me to get fans excited again about the upcoming phases, because I don't sense the excitement. The Marvels was not enough. The Kelsey Grammer and that tease was better than the Eternals entire movie, but it's not enough. And the Marvels has underperformed. And so, oh, wow, welcome.
In conclusion,
sorry, I'm late, guys.
The show. That's what I want from a Loki season 3. Not to follow Loki. Loki's arc, I think, is done. But Loki as the Watcher and teasing these other scenarios, and maybe Wunmi and Mobius and them going to see what's going on in these alternate multiverse paths, that would be something that would be worth doing.
Okay. Cool.
Well,
I don't know.
What do you think, Furious?
But
I would definitely be interested to see where season 3 would go with the new role that Loki is in, being that he is, I think Marvel actually calls him now the God of Stories, I think is what his new title is.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
And the fact
we
that
could all be saying the same thing, that if he's the God of Stories and he's outside of time, and he could peek his head into all these different universes and not only see what's going on, but pull people out if he wants to, because he can.
and this to me, assuming the higher ups at Marvel are disappointed the way a lot of the fans seem to be disappointed, and where some of the more recent Marvel productions is the direction that they're going in, Loki could be the one to come in and just reset the Marvel universe. Because, we know with Secret Wars and a couple of other Marvel projects that, I don't know, maybe Iron Man isn't really Iron Man. Maybe he's a Skrull. Who knows?
They better not do that.
Well, the roadie we've been following apparently for like the last 4 or 5 films has been a Skrull.
Exactly.
And you know why nobody cared?
Because it's not Mr. Maine.
No, not that. It's just that Rhodey was always a side character. Robert Downey Jr. held the entire MCU together, and his sacrifice was real. And Feige has said he's not going to undo the sacrifice. No. You might see a cameo, but you're not seeing Robert Downey Jr. as the mainstream Iron Man ever again. And that makes sense, even though in the comic books, nobody ever dies. And that isn't at all how the Infinity War or the Infinity Gauntlet saga played out. You could have killed Nebula.
I gotta go, y'all. So Furious, as you're in, I'm gonna pop out. I'm at a house full of people I'm supposed to be visiting with, so I'm going to go talk to my people.
You can go visit. Tell them to say
hey. See you later, Joy.
Joy.
Tom, the one thing I will say to that though is, just because Kevin Feige says it doesn't mean I believe it. Because in the Infinity War trailer, we saw Hulk running alongside everyone else as they went off to go fight.
And it didn't appear.
And we didn't see it. So is this smoke and mirrors to get him? Is it smoke and mirrors? Is he actually telling the truth? Who knows? But there was rumor that Tom Cruise at one point was on the plate to be Iron Man.
That's not rumor. That was fact. They were actually looking at Tom Cruise.
So, and where I was going was, what if in an alternate universe we actually do get Tom Cruise as Iron Man?
No.
Oh no. I don't want it. I'm just saying.
I don't even want that as a what if.
Absolutely not.
Look, the Flash already butchered that by actually giving us Nicolas Cage as Superman. Nobody asked for that, and they gave it to us anyway.
I
don't need Marvel following suit.
I actually
don't bring that vomit fest into the conversation. I will just say that there are some things that Feige says that I believe. Mm-hmm. He chose not to recast T'Challa, and instead he created a young T'Challa who is named T'Challa, who can be T'Challa and be related to Chadwick Boseman's T'Challa, and eventually be made into Black Panther thanks to time tricks and everything else.
And I still think that was the wrong decision, but that's just me.
Well, I don't think they should have killed him in the first place. I think you should have shelved Black Panther 2 and given us a season of Women of Wakanda while he was snapped, and just push Black Panther 2 to the side.
Yep.
Given us the Disney Plus series, because the Dora Milaje was one of the best parts, if not the best part, of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I would have watched Dora Milaje and Nakia and even Ironheart. Throw whoever you want to who's black and got power. Shit. Misty Knight up in that hole. Just do what you want and get these chicks, plus the Black Widows. That would have been the perfect thing. During the snap, Dora Milaje and Black Widows running the table across the world, working together to be the femme force that is protecting Earth.
Because we've already seen just how impactful they can be from the comics in the World of Wakanda series.
But this is what I'm saying. That's why it should have been D+ World of Wakanda. That's what it should have been. Yep. And then you wouldn't have had to deal with it. And then he wouldn't have had to be sick. You could have just picked up after the snap with a new actor, because it would have been 4 years since Chadwick had passed by the time he got to Black
looking
Panther 2.
Different.
Huh?
I said he came back looking different.
Yeah, it was bad in the Snapverse.
Yeah.
Well, if we look at Harry Potter, no one has ever made an inside joke in the Harry Potter movies about Dumbledore looking different when that actor passed away and he was recast.
Again, I always like to bring this up. The first 3 Thor films, 3 different actors played Finral.
Exactly.
And nobody noticed.
But that's also,
I know it's a background minor D level character, but still, He had speaking lines in every single movie. Nobody knows he was three different people.
As much as I love Chadwick Boseman, and I went to school with his brother, T'Challa as the Black Panther can't die. Just not T'Challa. You already killed T'Chaka. And you brought T'Chaka. You don't know this, but T'Chaka's back in What If season 2. So you killed T'Chaka, which was fine. You don't kill T'Challa. And to say, oh well, but Shuri was Black Panther in for a second, for a snip. And that was, while he was technically dead or whatever.
Did die in the comics.
So I know, but then he came back. He didn't die forever. And he didn't come back as his son. He came back as T'Challa with extra powers. So I'm just saying.
It's possible that they'll do that for this one. If not, then they'll.
It's just easier to age young T'Challa now and just recast him that way. That's you've given them that out. And they didn't do what they should have done and just focus on the women of Wakanda and let 4 years pass and just reintroduce him, and dedicate Black Panther 2 to T'Challa. That's what I mean, to Chadwick Boseman. That's what you should have done. Anytime somebody, William Hurt has been replaced by Harrison Ford because he died. And Harrison Ford is supposed to be, Thunderbolt Ross. That's a big character.
That's a big role.
Red Hulk.
And are we going to make it there?
Sometimes it happens. It was tragic, and Chadwick was great. But Chadwick is not the only person who can do an African accent and jump around in a catsuit. He's just not.
Yeah.
Michael B. Jordan did the same thing with no accent, but.
Well, he was raised in America, so.
I know. I get it.
But you mentioned something, and here's another what if I want to throw out there. So the end of Black Panther 2, Okoye rescues Everett Ross, but we see in Secret Invasion, Ross is a Skrull.
Right.
So at what point is Ross replaced? And is that the actual Okoye who saves him at the end of Black Panther 2? Or is that a Skrull?
I don't think Okoye. I don't think
so. I don't think the Skrulls could infiltrate Wakanda with their advanced technology and not be. I mean, I guess technically the Skrulls could replicate human DNA, so maybe they could, but I don't think we're expected to believe that was anything other than human Ross who got saved. And I think we're expected to believe that Ross got replaced
more recently than
when he was in hiding because he couldn't go back to his real job. I think he was replaced while he was in hiding and nobody knew.
Well, think about this though. What if Okoye was replaced when she was trying to save Shuri from Namor? But I'm just saying there've been several opportunities when she's been off camera that she could have been replaced.
But why would Everett Ross need to be saved if he was already a Skrull?
Don't know.
Because he was in a truck in the middle of the forest in the middle of nowhere. A Skrull could have easily escaped that truck and killed the driver and just been done. He needed to be saved. And I don't see what the advantage. I mean, the argument you could make is that it was an Skrull Koye who kidnapped Ross and turned Ross over. That could be the argument, but I don't know what that gains us any more than what really it gained us, except for a quote unquote dramatic reveal, which wasn't dramatic at all because I knew Rhodey was fake.
And maybe Okoye doesn't get replaced by a Skrull. Maybe while she's on the other side of the planet doing something and the Skrulls know that, they just become Okoye for a hot second, do something, and then go away. So at that point, we technically would have two Okoyes on the planet, but they don't know it.
Okoye doing something as a Midnight Angel, and then they're coming in as a Midnight Angel saving him?
Yeah.
But why? What story purpose does it serve?
That part.
Occam's razor says you can invent whatever you want when Marvel introduces clones. So it's just like the life model decoys. It becomes boring at that point. Oh, Nick Fury got shot in the face. Oh, but it was just a life model decoy.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same. You don't have to do it unless it makes sense. It made sense for Rhodey, except that Rhodey was in a nightgown in a place that was apparently so redolent with radiation that it would have killed Nick Fury in 5 minutes. And he's just sitting there chilling with the rest of the humans who were unprotected.
They were shielded.
Secret Wars was really a taut thriller until the last 2 episodes, when it started to really go off the rails. And the last episode is where it really, really went off the rails. Because again, you're a Skrull, you know it's your game to shapeshift.
Yeah.
And you just couldn't believe that another Skrull, you know there's a contingent of Skrulls aligned against you. And yet you allowed a human, a person you thought was a human, to become irradiated with the potential to give them superpowers just because you're petty. And then you turned out to be wrong. And she beats your ass. How'd that work out for you, bruh?
Hubris.
But
And
maybe
they weren't
it
even
was really
super
a toy.
soldiers.
Yeah.
It was just so consequence free. And now you've got this super-powered person who, unless you say the effects were temporary because you had to re-energize and the thing got blown up in the fight and da-da-da-da-da, that would be at least something where you take her off the board as permanently having these powers that are, making her the strongest person in the MCU. Because she's got all of Captain Marvel's powers, and Captain Marvel was the strongest, but she's got Captain Marvel and Thor and Hulk and Captain America. I mean, and Scarlet Witch. Come on. Like, that's too much.
Does she have Scarlet Witch?
Yes.
Does she have?
Everybody,
everybody
who shed blood in Endgame.
And Groot.
And Groot. Because remember, that's what all the samples came from, was that end battle of Endgame.
Yeah, the end battle.
And that they were all sent out. The Skrulls actually were sent out there to collect the DNA that was left on that battlefield. So not just them, but you also have Thanos' forces, those who left blood behind.
Right.
But shouldn't that blood have been blood have been whisked away when Thanos' fleet and everybody was turned to dust?
But if your blood falls out of you, it's not you anymore.
It's still your DNA.
Yeah, but if I snap you away, your blood that you spilled is still there. Yes.
I mean, bro, you're shaking your head, but clearly Feige disagrees.
And Feige's wrong.
Oh gosh.
Well, but see, the difference is that Thanos didn't, when he snapped, he didn't wipe them from existence. He just removed them from continuity.
Well, we don't really know where they went.
No. I'm saying he didn't uncreate Spider-Man. Spider-Man was mourned as lost.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he just killed the corporeal bodies of the people. And so there's nothing that's, his snap was only interested in destroying life. That doesn't mean destroying every remnant of you. If blood was out of your body, the blood isn't life anymore. The blood can't consume any more resources. He needs the bodies gone. He doesn't need the toenails gone.
I love the analogy.
I mean, I'm just saying, if you were clipping your toenails in the car on the freeway during rush hour, like the clipper falls, but I think the toenails that were in your, or the fingernails that were in your lap are still in the car seat. Unless like that one little piece was still on the finger and that one gets dusted because it's still touching you. Okay. That's all I'm saying.
Oh man. All right, so as we turn the calendar to 2024, we got Echo, which is the last of the short series coming out. Look, I'm happy that Echo is finally coming out. Trailer looks wonderful. I'm looking forward to it. I can't speak for anybody else. But again, it's the last of the short series because the new direction of all the shows is that there will be no more 6-episode series. We're going to get full on, at minimum, I think they said 8 to 10 episode series going forward, at minimum. So nothing short, because the 6-episode thing, the reason I didn't like it, it felt like they were trying to take a 2-hour movie and stretch it as much as possible, if that makes any sense. And for those who watch anime, it's kind of like you make a movie, but then you want that movie to be canon, so you take 90 minutes and you stretch it out into 12 to 13 episodes to make it a complete arc and fill in
2 episodes before you die, because you walk in the corpses and you're
and that's what the 6-episode thing, series feel like they're trying to shoehorn. Some of them did feel kind of shoehorned into the greater scheme of what this last phase was trying to do, whatever it was trying to do. As much as I enjoyed Moon Knight, it still felt out of place.
Oh, I forgot about Moon Knight.
It
just wasn't connected.
Right. I liked Hawkeye, but it felt like it could have been a 1-hour special. Honestly, it dragged some episodes.
That's what I talked about Eternals. It wasn't connected,
but it was also in the future too. It was. That's why I couldn't rock with Hawkeye. And anybody who says they wouldn't rather just see a Kingpin miniseries as opposed to Echo is a damn lie. I could watch Vincent D'Onofrio smash people's heads into car doors.
Oh my God, he is so amazing. Week. I love him.
And when he beat the hell out of that dude just with his fist, I mean, I'm good with that. I would happily watch Kingpin, and you could just introduce Daredevil in the last episode. I wouldn't care. I'd be happy watching Kingpin as a villain.
We're going to see that in Echo.
But I'm sorry. I'm just, we already have Taskmaster. I'm just not interested in Echo. Her thing is that she's deaf and she has a leg gone. Okay, great. That's fine. But there's minor characters, and there's minor characters who are side characters in a minor characters miniseries.
Damn.
Looking at you, Hawkeye. No. No, you just don't need that.
I'm sorry. Every time you put it that way, all I can think about is when he was guest host on Saturday Night Live and they were mocking the Avengers movie. It's like, Hawkeye, do whatever you do. I can't. I'm out of arrows. And Hulk picks him up and swings him around like a rag doll.
Exactly. Marvel had that one experience with Guardians of the Galaxy that became a hit. Mm-hmm. And they said, oh, we can throw anybody on screen. And they'll like us because we're Marvel. Except that proved not to be true. And I am one of the people who didn't think Black Widow was a bad movie at all. I enjoyed Black Widow. But nobody needed to see Black Widow after she was a Soul Stone. Not the Soul Stone. After she gave herself up to become the Soul Stone.
True. We didn't need to see her.
We didn't need to see her anymore. And it's the same thing with Echo. Echo was fine as a foil for Hawkeye because Hawkeye killed her daddy or whatever. Sure. Okay. I don't need to see that. I would have rather seen Warpath. If you wanted an indigenous character, I'd rather see Warpath to open a door
Daredevil
to than to give me and I really don't want to see Warpath. That's the point. I don't want to see Warpath. Warpath isn't particularly incredible. But if you're gonna give me something that bridges to something that I care about. And we don't know what Daredevil Reborn is going to be yet.
No, we don't, because it's whatever it's supposed to be, it's been shelved indefinitely at this point, because it was supposed to initially be 2-part 18 to 20 episode series, and now they don't even know if it's going to go that long.
And again, I'm not a fan of Daniel Cox. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Charlie Cox.
Yeah. Whatever his name is. I'm not a fan of his portrayal of Daredevil.
Anything's better than Ben Affleck.
I mean, okay.
I'll go a step even further. Do we need Daredevil?
I don't think so.
Because you have
Spider-Man.
If you want to establish street level heroes, because Marvel Feige says that they're going to bring in everybody they pretty much absorbed from Netflix and eventually put them back on screen again in some way, shape, or form. You need Daredevil. If you're going to create that street level team, you kind of
need Cage before you need Daredevil.
I would definitely prefer Luke Cage before we get Daredevil. But
when it comes to street level teams, I'd rather see Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
They went so far off the rails with
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
last 2-3 seasons.
I liked how they pulled in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and then they linked it to the movies.
Yeah, but that was a TV show doing that. Feige and the brain trust over the MCU, they still don't acknowledge Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
They don't. Coulson died in Avengers, period, full stop. And so Feige's never going to open that door. And honestly, I think it was the last season where it was basically Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We in space. And I couldn't rock with that.
Because they jumped.
Discovery did the time jump a lot better.
I mean, a Star Trek especially is time jumps. So
right. And look, the Netflix series, well, I won't even say the Netflix series. Daredevil and Luke Cage were awesome. I liked the first season of Jessica just because.
Yeah, I like Jessica Jones.
The second season of Jessica Jones was ass. And I never liked Aluminum Wrist, which is what I call Iron Fist.
Me too.
You can just eliminate Iron Fist altogether.
Listen.
You can eliminate
Shang-Chi, either give Shang-Chi the Iron Fist to give him actual powers, but he also has the 10 rings, or just give me an Asian Iron Fist. It made no sense except for white supremacy that a blonde dude becomes the ultimate karate master of the MCU.
It never made sense in the comics either.
No, that's what I'm saying.
But again, remember that character was created at a time to where abandoned somehow white person falls into indigenous people and masters their art. Like
it's Tarzan.
I refuse to accept that would happen.
It's Tarzan in golden slippers and green tights.
Yeah, I would never say that would happen, but that's the character was created in an era where you had lots of characters of that nature, like so the White Shadow, if you will.
And I don't think you need Shang-Chi and Iron Fist. So you can bridge it by just giving Shang-Chi the Iron Fist, or you can just let Iron Fist die, which I'm perfectly happy with because you sucked as Renly Baratheon and everything else. So just because, he was Renly, right?
Unless you're going to do heroes.
Whichever one died first.
Oh, so No, he wasn't. Yeah, Renly died first. Then Robert. No, Robert, I guess, died first. And then Renly and Stannis were trying.
Stannis was last,
and then Renly got killed, and then Stannis killed his baby and still got killed.
Yeah, because Stannis is the one that killed his daughter.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So Renly died. Yeah.
And she had cancer. You're a dick, Stannis. That baby had cancer, and you killed her, and you still died
because the Red Woman told him to.
Listen, Melisandre, worst stepmother ever.
Well, I don't know what's up with Feige personally.
But look, there's only 3 things.
All my friends, you can, when you watch the shows, you don't need to watch Iron Fist. You can eliminate him and go watch Jessica, Cage, Daredevil, and then go straight to Defenders. You don't even need to watch Iron Fist.
I don't even think you need to watch Defenders, honestly.
Defenders
was another one that was trash that just didn't fit into any sort of continuity at all.
It didn't. They're coming together, and then the coming together made no sense.
No, and that's not the Defenders.
It's not.
Hello, you've got Steven. If Feige, well, it wasn't Feige at that point.
It wasn't Feige. That was on Netflix.
You had no Valkyrie, you had no Gargoyle, you had no Doctor Strange, you had no Hulk. That's Defenders.
Not that, but they were not all.
No, it flipped. But even Silver Surfer was a Defender at one point. I'm just saying, Jessica Jones was never
was a Defender at one point. They jumped back and forth between it, but they took.
It was goofy
for that show. For the characters they chose, I get why they did that, because there was a comic book run at the time where the Defenders were those 4 characters only. Simultaneously, when those shows were on Netflix, it was
I get it. You needed a group name.
Yeah.
And so you had
it worked because it was currently
so used it.
Yeah, the run was currently that squad in comics at the time. So I mean, they just ran with it. I would love to see what Feige does with it if they go back to expanding, because again, Daredevil is the only thing confirmed coming over from that.
Right.
With a few actors from his show. The other three, mum's the word as far as any of those characters making any appearance whatsoever.
Yeah.
So
just do. I mean, Mike Coulter has been great in Evil, but Evil has been on hiatus. So just bring Mike back. I don't let Jessica go. I don't care. Or bring Patsy.
What about Misty Knight?
Oh yeah, bring Misty Knight. Sorry,
damn sure
I'm fine. Oh, make Colleen Wing Iron Fist. There we go. Problem solved. Colleen Wing is Iron Fist.
He did have Iron Fist powers at
All
the end.
Rise is done. Mike Coulter. You get what's her name? Rosario Dawson doing Ahsoka and Night Nurse. And if you make Colleen Wing Iron Fist, then you could still have Heroes for Hire.
Yep.
You could do, because I'd watch Mike Coulter in whoever the actor was who played Colleen Wing. I can't remember her name, but I would watch that show.
Yeah.
And you get the gender balance that we're looking for these days. So that's who you scavenge. You got to keep Daredevil because Daredevil brings you Kingpin and all that sort of stuff. And he wasn't horrible. He just, I don't think you need Daredevil when you have Spider-Man, honestly, because they're too similar.
Yeah, we don't know what the deal is. Well, no, let me phrase that. We know what the deal is with Spider-Man. Sony's being assholes.
Right.
And if they want to continue pumping out films in the Spider-Man universe without Spider-Man, so be it. I will never spend my money on it.
Listen. You cannot believe that 50 Shades of Madam Web and Craven are going to be enough to hang franchises on.
Oh, Sony believes
can't believe that.
Oh, they're still trying to push through with the Sinister Six film. Because if you wasted your life watching Morbius to the end, you saw
you got Vulture.
Yeah, Vulture. He meets with Vulture at the end. And it's Michael Keaton's Vulture from Sony's Spider-Man movie. So, yeah, they're still hell-bent on doing that nonsense.
Yeah, it's really, really dumb, especially since the whole appetite for superhero films is waning. If I were Feige, I would wipe the slate clean, do some one-offs like Werewolf at Night to introduce every character that you're interested in getting into Secret Wars, and pick things up with a big event film with lots of buildup and anticipation, with no fault missteps and big expensive productions that don't earn back their spend. Just give me some smaller things, set some things up, Loki season 3, giving us hints, and come back in 2026 with Secret Wars. And just...
I haven't watched Werewolf at Night. I haven't done that one.
Yeah, Werewolf at Night was pretty good. It was good.
And you get Man Thing, which is nothing wrong with that.
Look, I think this is a good year for Marvel to take a break. They only have 3 properties coming out. It's their Deadpool 3, Echo, and one other TV show towards the end of the year. I forget which one it is.
Oh, they don't have any other features besides Deadpool 3?
Nope.
Oh, that's great, because Deadpool
back.
Gonna be great.
Everything got pushed back because of the strikes.
Oh, okay. Well,
Everything
that's good.
pushed back because of strikes.
Because Deadpool should be a hit because you got Wolverine in it, and all those movies are always amazing, and so that's good. Echo is going to be a blip. Nobody's going to care, and
as long as Marvel doesn't come in and enforce a PG-13.
No.
They've already said no.
They're letting Ryan Reynolds and his team over Deadpool continue to do what they do with Deadpool.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, they're letting Ryan do his thing.
So
multiple F-bombs, decapitations, disembowelments, whatever.
I can't remember what the third project is, but it's not a feature. I know it's a TV show going to Disney Plus, and it's after Deadpool 3 comes out. So I don't know. I know it has a slot for late summer, early fall, but I don't remember what was put in that slot.
That's definitely the best idea. And let people fall in love with it again and drop something in there that is undeniable. Because what you want, Avengers was the first $1 billion movie in the MCU.
Yes.
So you want an event film. You don't want to just make films just to make them.
True, but you also need the build up to that. And remember, there were 5 movies that build up to the Avengers,
right?
And
but not all in one year.
No. It's got to take time. It's got to take time.
You take the time,
the audience needs to be patient. Like you can't, and because look, as great as Infinity War and Endgame were, every film afterwards is not going to be on that level. You're basically starting over because your big bad for that arc is no more. So
I don't think asking the audience to be patient is realistic anymore.
It never was. I mean, I will say this. For the first 3 phases, the only people who were really impatient were the comic book fans. The general audience was like, this is great. It was us nerds who were pretty much geeking out like, I can't wait for the next thing to come out because we kind of know what's going to happen.
But after you were getting 2 or 3 films a year consistently.
True.
So it wasn't like you had to wait. You had next chapters coming like fast on each other's heels through Endgame. Mm-hmm. You basically had at least 2 Marvel films a year. And that was a lot. And then you had Netflix come into it. You had Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that was on TV. You could get touches and tastes. Where they really fumbled was we needed to know after Endgame, you needed to know where you were going. And the quantum verse was just not enough. Nobody really knew what that was. And the Ant-Man films had always been the least substantial of the mainstream MCU films. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy was kind of off planet and goofy and all that, but at least it had that going for it. The first Ant-Man film was a heist film, and the second Ant-Man film was a bit of a tangled mess. But you didn't have a map to say, this is where we're going, and you fumbled so badly.
That part right there, you only have to continue forward. They had no map after Endgame. No, whatever Feige and the Brain Trust was to put out there, this is our plan after. No, you had a plan up to Endgame, and then nothing. And yes, it does feel like, now granted, there were characters you wanted to put out there and they couldn't be fit in before Endgame, so you decided to do it post Endgame, and you're making those movies. Congratulations. But like you said, they don't tie into anything grand scheme. These are all intro films. Like, hey, here are the Eternals. Here's a new team that you can worry about. Here's Shang-Chi. Here's a new character to think about. You know, and whatever else they put out there. Like I said, the Black Widow film, enjoy it or not, I still feel it was unnecessary.
No, it wasn't necessary. It wasn't.
But like I said, it's going to be a slow year.
Yeah, they have it's Deadpool 3, Kraven the Hunter, and Agatha.
No,
Kraven the Hunter.
Kraven is Sony.
That's Sony. But Agatha,
whatever the Agatha show is going to be called. So I guess that's the second show to Disney Plus.
Yeah, Agatha all along. No.
And no one really
Diaries season 1.
Who Diaries?
Darkhold Diaries season 1.
Oh, that's what it's going to be called?
Is that what Agatha's show is called?
Yeah.
Okay, so
because wasn't it like Coven of Kookiness or something?
Coven of Witches.
Yeah, I love her as an actor.
Right.
I don't need to see
an entire series,
unless she's doing something directly dealing with Scarlet Witch stuff.
Now, if the entirety of the show is her breaking out of Scarlet Witch's hex, okay.
No,
that
can be a flashback.
Yeah, no, she needs to. I mean, again, Agatha Harkness was tied to Scarlet Witch, and she was also tied to the Fantastic Four.
So how she became Agatha is what we're gonna have.
But we already kind of saw that.
We saw
they
that
showed us
in
WandaVision.
In
WandaVision. She sucked all the power out of the other witches,
and
just kept building her power through the centuries until
she met up with Wanda.
Right, until she battled with Wanda. So Darkhold Diaries at least makes a little more sense if you're going to try to do something that's like a mystical X-Files, I guess, and you can follow Shaitan and you know, and that sort of thing, maybe, I guess. But do that in 6 episodes and I'm out, because honestly, I just don't. All I want is to. Secret Wars is a great buildup, but the thing about Secret Wars is that Secret Wars was a 12-issue miniseries that started with the Beyonder just taking everybody, and you don't have everybody in your universe yet.
Right, so you have to bring in everybody into the universe.
You have to bring in everybody.
Well, we didn't have everybody for Infinity War and Endgame, and they still pulled that off.
Yeah,
but the difference is that the audience, you had almost everybody. By the time we got to Infinity War, did they introduce any new characters other than the Black Order? I don't think they introduced any new heroes.
No, they didn't bring in everybody for Infinity Wars. They brought in enough people of each show led up to the Infinity Wars. So that's how they did it.
And then Endgame was you didn't get everybody until the end. So the difference in what we have now is that if you clear the decks, if you do Deadpool and then you say, guys, we've got to get an X-Men movie in 2025, you could get an X-Men movie in 2025. And X-Men would be enough to reinvigorate fan interest in the MCU.
Here's my caution with X-Men, though.
I don't care about.
I don't need a big roster. I don't need a big roster of X-Men, and that's always been the problem with X-Men films. The roster has been way too big.
I mean, you need Storm. You need Cyclops.
You need Storm. You need Cyclops. You need.
I mean, you need a Wolverine.
You don't need Wolverine. Wolverine was just thrust to the forefront. But we don't.
Well, but I'm saying,
as much as I love Storm, and I'm going to catch hell for this, you don't need
him.
Storm.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
You a damn lie. That is Halle Berry and that other little light-skinned girl's problem. That is not a Storm problem. Storm is
Alexandra Shipp.
Yes, Alexandra Shipp. Yeah.
Again, one of the reasons I say that is look at how long we had the X-Men. And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we don't want Storm, but the introduction of the X-Men, I honestly don't know that we need her.
First of all, you're not getting rid of a Black woman second in command. You're not doing that. So Storm is needed. If they don't have Storm, there's gonna be a riot.
But see, the problem is
the team of X-Men only had one woman.
Yep.
Yeah, and they were all
and
white.
she could barely lift a hairpin without fainting.
But see, what scares me about the X-Men and Storm is they keep getting it wrong.
But that's because Fox was doing it.
Right.
Absolutely. No, I'm with you. It is a Fox problem, but there have been a few casting decisions in Marvel proper that I've been kind of, I don't know about that one. And
who's your biggest problem with Marvel casting?
I'm about to say Marvel's casting has been pretty spot on. That is very few
in the MCU. Let's not deal with TV shows. Who is your problem with MCU casting?
One of the biggest ones for me is the Ancient One.
That was a political thing.
That's not a real character.
That was a political thing.
That was a political thing. They couldn't make them. They couldn't make them Tibetan because of China.
Right.
They just couldn't do it. That was a business decision.
Mm-hmm.
That would have cost them $350 million.
Right.
Now, I don't know that they needed to make it a woman, but I also didn't care. Because the Ancient One wasn't somebody that was important enough for me to care about. Fair.
And I don't know. I when I look at Scarlett Johansson as the Black Widow, and I'm like,
She never did the accent. They should have picked somebody who could do an accent. But guess what?
Yeah, she never came across
like Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow.
Really?
I like it.
I mean, she kicked ass. I don't think Black Widow was an essential part of the Avengers lineup. You definitely could have used a different female character.
Well, initially it was supposed to be Ant-Man and the Wasp, but they could never get those films off the drawing board before Avengers came out, which is why.
Yeah, Janet Van Dyne, or I guess Hope, whatever, would have made a lot more sense. But I did like the fact that they brought Hank and Janet in as heroes from the past who got introduced in the future continuity. I mean, in modern day continuity. I thought that was a fine compromise. I just don't think. Listen, all of us enjoyed the phase 1 and phase 2 and phase 3 films by and large. They didn't really have any huge disasters, even if all of them weren't as profitable as they ultimately did.
Thor: The Dark World.
Okay. Yeah. And Iron Man 3. Thor: The Dark World was trash. But Iron Man 3 was trash. But you went with it because they weren't so horrible that it derailed your enjoyment of what you knew was to come.
True. That's fair.
There have been too many missteps since Endgame to maintain interest and
what do you consider everything
else?
I don't know if I agree with that. I think the expectations of the audience were too high for everything.
You don't think there have been too many missteps?
No, honestly, I don't.
So what do you consider the top three?
I think the audience expectations were way too high. I do believe that, because one of the biggest complaints. So the first, 3 films after Endgame was Spider-Man: No Way Home, Eternals, and Shang-Chi, if I'm not mistaken. Those are the first 3.
I thought Black Widow came out.
Black Widow was after that, because Black Widow was during the pandemic.
Oh, right.
So the first 3 are Spider-Man: No Way Home, Eternals, Shang-Chi are the first 3 films after Endgame. And the audience reaction to basically 2 of those 3 films was pretty much, it wasn't Endgame. And that's pretty much the only thing I got from people who didn't like those films. That was the only thing they could say to me.
You can't put that solely on the audience, though. That's not 100% on the audience, because up until leading up until Endgame, except for, again, we just said Thor: The Dark World and Iron Man 3, with every MCU film that got released, they kept giving us bigger and better. Then they get to Endgame and they blow their load.
Yeah, which means you got to start over.
No, which to me means your next film after.
Just quickly, Spider-Man: Far From Home was the last film of phase 3. It was the first film after Endgame and the last film of phase 3, because it was the Tony Stark is dead and dealing with Peter Parker dealing with Tony's death. So phase 4 technically picked up with,
should be Spider-Man: No Way Home.
No, Spider-Man: No Way Home. No, Black Widow was the first film of phase 4. Then you had Shang-Chi. Then you had Eternals. Then you had Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Sorry.
Then you had Multiverse, Love and Thunder, and Wakanda Forever. And so to me, you start off phase 4 with an unnecessary film.
Yes.
You segue into a character introduction film, which is disconnected to everything. Then you get into Eternals, which nobody asked for. It was just confusing. Then you get into
and what was the point of Eternals?
Which No Way Home is fine.
There was no point. It was just a movie.
And don't get me wrong, I'm one of the few people who I enjoyed Eternals. But Eternals does not serve a purpose.
It doesn't
in the larger storytelling.
It was just a movie that they decided to make, and they just threw it in there.
Yeah,
because they were on Earth for 5,000 years and didn't even attempt to intervene with Thanos. And Arishem, or whoever the Celestial was that they were praying to, didn't recognize that Thanos was a threat, and directed his robot minions to go tear through the Black Order and the Shatari forces to make sure Thanos didn't get what he wanted.
Right.
I mean, it made no sense. It just didn't make any sense.
And we still have old boy poking out of the
exactly. Yeah. Tiamat is a whole ass continent which nobody has seen. Luther made an island the size of Manhattan off the shore of Metropolis, and everybody knew what was going on. And that was dirt and rocks and kryptonite, and you get a whole
in the middle of the ocean,
8th continent,
in
the Indian Ocean, off the shore.
Ask people how many continents we have and name them. I bet you they can't do that. So
it doesn't matter. You know when a new Disneyland launches, you got a whole ass continent growing out the damn thing, made of adamantium, and don't nobody know it. Shit. Stark Industries would have been on, or Stain Industries or Hammer Industries would have been on that bitch 2 minutes later.
Somebody.
It doesn't make any sense. Okay, so that was phase 4.
So now, again, James, I still say you can't put this solely on the audience. I'm putting it
solely on the audience.
Marvel didn't.
Again, they didn't plan. They didn't plan for anything after Endgame. They didn't.
Okay, so Brave New World apparently is the last.
They didn't plan for the pandemic.
Phase 5.
Well, that's too.
That they didn't plan for the pandemic.
Because you had all the D+ shows. That's the thing. They should have taken a breather after Far From Home. You should have concentrated on some Snap series on D+, give the audience a break. If you wanted to introduce a concept like the Eternals would have made much more sense over 6 episodes where you could have teased out who they, well, no, I'm not saying I wanted that. I'm just saying that you could have given people an opportunity to care. I'm going to tell you
why the Eternals as a TV show wouldn't work. And it's called The Inhumans.
Okay, I knew you were going to do that. But you know what? The Inhumans was,
the less said, the better.
They didn't have a budget. They didn't.
They had a budget. It was nothing.
But that's what I'm saying. They didn't have a budget to do it. Medusa had a page boy for most of that damn show. That was her whole raison d'etre.
Mm-hmm.
And she could never use her powers because it was too expensive to do.
Yeah, they got lazy early. Because episode 1 she lost her hair.
Listen, Gorgon with them feet looking like he was a bad Tim Curry from Legend.
Not Legend. God.
It was not.
Okay.
It was not the business. And so if they had understood that they were going to get, you just had the biggest emotional death. You close out the death with Far From Home. And then you say, it should have been the Snap generation. It should have been Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It should have been all stuff dealing with Snap and consequences and real world, and just keep it down to earth. And then you can roll into something instead of Shang-Chi just kind of emerging out of nothing. Have Shang-Chi be a part of maybe tied to Madripoor. I don't know. Do something so that there's some connective tissue with stuff that has existed.
So again, the part where I said that they had no plan after Endgame.
That's it.
If you look at how some of the movies and the TV shows were supposed to tie in when the TV shows are first launching.
Right.
If you watch the interviews of the writers and directors of the TV shows when they sit down with different podcasters or whatever, the one thing they always say is, we weren't allowed to watch blank. Whatever show you think that, whatever movie or previous show you think that the show you're watching is supposed to connect to, like WandaVision. They weren't allowed to watch or get any type of insight into what was going on in Multiverse of Madness, even though those two were directly connected. So when you watch Multiverse of Madness and you're thinking, well, should I watch WandaVision because she appears in this movie, and you see where she's left off there and what they do to Wanda in Multiverse of Madness, which is basically a total 180 from where she was at the end of her own show, it's like, this kind of doesn't make sense. Well, if the showrunners were actually allowed to know what she was going to, how she was going to be used in Multiverse of Madness, they could have written her better as far as the ending of WandaVision. They were never allowed that.
Well, but in the end of WandaVision, she was at Wundagore Mountain trying to find her kids. That was the setup.
No, she was looking through the book and happened to hear her children.
Hear her kids. But she wasn't looking for them, but she was basically trying to. She was trying to understand.
You can say that she wasn't looking for them, but she was flipping through the devil book, and she heard her kids, and that's what set up the events of Multiverse of Madness. Yeah, so you can say all you want. She wasn't looking for them kids. She had the devil rays coming out her eyes, and she was floating above her kitchen table, flipping through the devil book, and said, "Mommy!" And all of a sudden, she said, "Nah, bruh." They ended like that again, where it was clear
the show. She was a bad person. But yeah, but what I'm getting at is the show for Feige to be creating this interconnected universe where now the shows are supposed to play a part into the machinations of what happens on the big screen with the movies, it kind of helps if they know what the other is doing. And he's not allowing that. Now, whether that's going to change with this year of basically nothingness we're getting, because again, only 3 things are coming out in 24. Hopefully that changes. But up until this point, he hasn't been allowing that. And again, that stems into my belief of them having no plan post Endgame, aside from the handful of films that
I think that they was just off of the high of we're going to give everybody their own show. And because there was a lot of people that was asking, and I was one of them, and I sent him a tweet. Shit, why wouldn't I? Of Black Widow needs her own show. So I think they was just giving everybody their own show, and truly a lot of things happened. The pandemic happened, that pushed things back, and then we had the strike. It's just a lot of things that happened back to back, and
but then they end up doing too much with the shows because it was too many shows and they were rushed.
Yes.
And whether writing or production kind of
and then not linking them in
otherwise good
way.
Ideas. Yeah.
The way that they started with Iron Man and started linking them all together.
Well, that's a problem. Iron Man was a half-finished script. And they basically got halfway through filming and winged the second half of the movie. So, and that's a problem.
They winged it pretty well.
Once, and they felt like they can do it going forward with every single thing afterwards.
Yeah, but unless RDJ is in it, you don't get that perfect casting that can create the alchemy that pulls it together. Thor: Dark World.
All right. Well, we are running long, so I'm going to shut this down until our next get together, which I don't know if it's going to be Aquaman 2, or maybe we'll do What If, or maybe we'll do The Color Purple. Who knows? But final word.
A new name next year.
We will have a new name in 24. So that much will encompass more than just Marvel and DC. And Lord knows DC needs to do something in 24 because.
And you're welcome to come back, Tom.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just need Black Adam 2 from DC. I know they don't want to do it, but I'm sorry. James Gunn, this ain't it.
What happened with DC?
Well, he said they're dropping The Rock as Black Adam. That was
yeah, of course. Remember, when Black Adam came out, Rock had a plan to take over the DC universe and center everything on Black Adam and Superman. That was his plan. Right.
I mean, people liked Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
I mean, most people center the DC universe on Superman already. So was that really that bad of an idea?
No, but to center it on Black Adam and Superman.
But here's the thing.
I don't necessarily think that was a bad idea.
It wasn't a bad idea.
Now, The Rock as Black Adam was a bad idea.
Okay, now here we go with this we can't keep running the show because that's a whole separate argument.
It is. A D-list villain for a C-list hero. I'm sorry, I can't get with that. That's what Black Adam is.
Black Adam was a badass in that movie. And he was as impressive as Zod.
He is still a D-list villain for a C-list hero.
You think Superman is a C-list hero?
Captain Marvel or Shazam.
Oh, Captain Marvel is an S-list hero.
But that's who Black Adam is the main antagonist for.
Well, classically. But when he stepped into his own and Kahndaq and having the Black Marvel family and all that other sort of stuff, I think he kind of outgrew that.
Yeah.
I think he outgrew it really when he was first introduced as a Captain Marvel foil, because he was always a more interesting character than Captain Marvel. But
I mean, who isn't? But here we are.
Superman isn't.
Sorry, Zach Levi.
Superman isn't.
Oh God, save it for next year.
I'm sorry, James. God. You know how I feel about Superman.
Oh Lord, tying this up because it is getting late and some of us need to go to bed. Happy New Year, everyone! Enjoy
Happy New Year. Happy New Year,
the rest
guys.
of your week. Happy New Year to all of you. Wish you all well, health, and happiness going forward, and look forward to see you all on the next show, whatever that may be. So,
deuces
for Moana Nui After Dark. Good night.
So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will.
If this the land of the free, it was a freedom then, when they annexed Hawaii and called it Cedar Lands, without any type of payment and no signing off. Called themselves a republic in 1894. 1.2 million acres overtaken from the native Hawaiians. When they resisted, the West retaliated in violence and erasure. The Hawaiian language is banned as part of colonialism's plan to expand, yeah.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. No work out for all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.
So if you put Hawaii into perspective, well, Black and Asian history is interconnected. Considering the fight with the Pacific, then of course, versus Asia, they was treated as a middleman for war, but didn't let the Western colorism run its course, cause dark skin was a sign of dignity to core. The land was taken in the name of capitalism, when prior to it was an actual kingdom. Clap back at the system.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe as a part of their ongoing war with Asia. Used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. No work out for all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it,